Hey there, soccer friends. Welcome to Kickback Committee. We're glad you're here. I'm Susannah Fuller, and I am super glad to be alongside my good friend and fellow committee member, David Goss, ahead of a very big week in American soccer, my friends. We are looking ahead to the Lamar Hunt US Open Cup semifinals. I love this competition. I know you love this competition, and I was thinking about this. In our time covering soccer, I would argue that there is nobody on the planet that has covered this competition in more depth than you, Goss.
That is a great compliment, and I appreciate it. I don't know that I've done more than the people at USOpencup.org and all the people who are in the weeds.
Yeah, but that's their job. This is just you doing the Lord's work.
Listen, I will say there are literally dozens of us. The people of us that really, really care. But as you said, it's the best competition. I love mass event. I love an NCAA tournament. I love an Olympics. Give me a million things happening. And I also like underdogs. And I also like soccer in America. And so it's when I first found out about this, I was like, I don't really understand what's happening. And then as you start to get into it and do the research, you're like, this is the coolest thing that's ever happened. It has its years. Some years everything's on the tracks. Some years there's a lot of upsets. It goes back and forth. But it always delivers, I would say, in the end.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more. So we're going to dive deeper into the U.S. Open Cup. We're going to chat on the history of it, some of our favorite moments. We're going to catch up with Nashville SC defender Walker Zimmerman ahead of Nashville's semifinal matchup with Philadelphia on Tuesday. So that's going to be a fun conversation. And we continue our 50 States of Soccer caravan today. We're going to the great state of Tennessee, my new home state. Tennessee, and I'm sort of indoctrinated into the soccer world here, and I will tell you, there's a scene, there's a vibe here, and I'm excited to get into that with all of you guys. But before that, let's chat more on this U.S. Open Cup, okay? Because this is, as David said, this is one of the coolest competitions that we have, and it dates back to 1913. Which makes it the oldest competition in the States and actually one of the oldest in the world. So this is a domestic cup competition. It's very similar to, let's say, the FA Cup in England. And so amateur teams, professional teams can compete against each other. And that is truly what makes it great because, as we said, we love an underdog. We love a cup set, as we call them, Goss. It's all kinds of fun. I love this. I feel like we need to talk about it more, but you have much more context on this competition.
Yeah, so you mentioned how old it is, 1914, 1915. It was, up until COVID, the longest running continuous competition on the planet because you had some of the cup competitions in Europe that had started a little earlier but had been delayed, I assume, because of the world wars that were fought in Europe.
Would make sense.
Seems like a big deal. Yeah, those are some big ones. And the Open Cup being here never did. And then, I don't know, there's I think we all learned in 2020 there was weird moments like Spanish flu that we'd never heard of before, or I had never heard of before, that changed things. And that had never happened in the U.S. So up until that year, I called some of the games, I would open every game with longest running continuous cup competition on the planet. And it was a huge deal out the gates because you have to think all the way back then, Major League Baseball was big, but nothing was okay, this is pro and other stuff doesn't matter. You had these events that would draw people. And so anyone who doesn't know this history, I'd highly recommend going and learning about sort of the teams of immigrant communities on the East Coast. And a lot of them were tied to specific industries. So Bethlehem Steel is one of the famous teams we all know of. It was literally a corporation that was running a team for free time that became so good that they would bring employees in specifically because of how good they were at soccer. And they went on to win 3 U.S. Open Cups. There was German American communities, Hungarian American communities, Portuguese communities up in the Fall River, Massachusetts area. Fall River of Marksmen, one of the famous teams as well, to win a number of these competitions. And then for anyone who knows, the 1950s time is as St. Louis grows as this huge soccer community as well. So the dominant forces were like that whole Northeast run from Pennsylvania up through Boston. You had teams, of course, in New Jersey, teams in New York, Rhode Island, and then St. Louis. And then eventually in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, it really becomes dominant out in California, where like as there's no pro scene, NASL never competed in US Open Cup. The teams just never chose to. And then as NASL fell apart, all that was left from a soccer point of view was like these small lower division leagues, these old ethnic leagues, men's leagues, whatever you call them. So there was a team in LA, Maccabi LA, who ended up being a dominant force. They won 4 in a row, which is the record. You have teams up in San Francisco that competed at a really high level. Some of these teams then went into CONCACAF competition because you auto-qualify as a winner, but they weren't pro teams. They had to like get off vacation to fly to the Azteca and play against Club America. It's like wild stuff. And the Open Cup is, you look at the crowds in the early years and you're talking like 10, 15, 20,000 people in these old stadiums around tracks, like all this type of stuff. And it really kept the game alive from like that high level point of view for a long time in the US. And then eventually you get A-League in the early 90s, which becomes USL. And then you get MLS, which joins, and MLS fully then enters US Open Cup and is somewhat of a dominant force for the next 20 or so years, although we're going to talk about the moments when they aren't, because we're going to talk about some of our favorite moments ever. And that helped grow the Open Cup, because as you brought more pro teams in, you then needed more lower division teams to match into opening rounds. And as that started to happen, it seems to have really grown the interest from a lot of lower division leagues to have more of a proper setup and be eligible for this. And the competition over the last 15 years has exploded. So it used to have 40 teams. And in the upcoming year, it is going to have 146 entrants into qualifying. And reminder, you qualify based off the year before. So we are currently entering 2026 US Open Cup qualifying. And a lot of teams, they qualify based off where they finished in their standings the previous season, which I think helps keeps teams around and keeps teams connected. And then it all starts early in the year, around March, April. And then we're going to see this final come up on October 1st on a Wednesday, either in Minnesota or Austin, I believe it's going to be. But it is like a really cool setup. And it is the only, I think, sports competition that you can enter as an amateur and play against the high-level pros. Like, you could, now we won't, but we could join a team, have that team win, have that team compete, and then play against Messi. Like, that's not unrealistic. That's not absurd. It is possible. And I think it's the only thing that is possible in the United States, which is why I think it has so much potential. One of the big moments, of course, in Open Cup history, unfortunately, was 2023. Major League Soccer said that they were going to pull their teams out of the Open Cup and only play their reserve teams. It has been a bit of a battle between U.S. Soccer, MLS, and other entities around since then to try and figure out where the Open Cup stands. I think there was a lot of politicking in that, which is stupid, and it really endangered the future of this competition because you need the revenue, you need the interest, you need that top level of things to say upsets are what, really is magical. Like upsets, a lot of that. You need the Giants to have those moments. And so we have the most MLS teams this year back in the competition since MLS pulled their teams out. And we'll see what it looks like going forward. But I think having 146 teams, a record to compete for this year's competition, is a pretty special way to start it. And we already know NPSL and USL2 teams that have auto-qualified in. So I believe it's 12 teams that are already locked into the first round of next year's competition.
It is grassroots soccer at its finest. Like if you are a soccer sicko, this is the competition for you. And I feel like, Gus, you talk about the things that they need in order to make this competition successful. They also need people like us to continue to talk about it and to tell people why it's so great, why it matters, why it's so entertaining and so much fun. So we are actually going to go through some of our favorite moments that we have seen and then witnessed in person, because we have been lucky enough in our careers to actually attend some of these matches, which has been some of the most special experiences of my professional career. But I have a deeply personal connection to the U.S. Open Cup, which is really cool. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I did not watch the 2008 final between DC United
a moment
and
in the
Charleston
force
Battery.
that night.
Where you were like, must have been
someone cute just did something cool.
I'm trying to think of myself back in 2008 and when this would have been. And like, I was just moved to New York City.
Okay.
Maybe I was catching some vibes from somewhere, like it could have happened. But my husband, Ian Fuller, was playing for Charleston Battery at the time, who were facing off at RFK Stadium against DC United in this final. They lost 2-1. However, Ian Fuller scored the equalizer in the first half for the Charleston Battery while having a broken arm, David Goss. So he likes to point that out to me. That he was playing injured.
You're not really allowed to use your arms if you're not a goalkeeper.
That's what I said. I was like, well, it's not really that important, which he took offense to.
Right. Neither of us have ever played in a final, but I feel like he's doing a lot and he should calm down.
It was a lovely goal, though. And honestly, like we've watched the highlights back. In fact, we did ahead of recording this episode.
Hell yeah.
I've seen them before, by the way. This is not the first time that I have seen them.
Are they on VHS or are we finding them online?
They actually do exist on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm happy to report. But it was a fun final, man. Like a lot of times these finals are played a little bit cagey, but this was some serious end-to-end action. And Charleston actually had a ton of chances in this. It was a lot closer. I think they hit the post at least like 3 times in this. Ozzie Alonso was in the midfield with Ian, a young Ozzie Alonso who was just, a
So
menace.
Ian's doing like half the work because Ozzie's doing
kind of. That's what I said. And Ian always laughs at his lack of athleticism and pace. And he was like, but I was playing alongside Ozzie. It didn't
makes life a little bit
didn't really
easier.
matter. He was like, technically I was fine. He could finish. He had good vision. But that's pretty cool. It's really cool. And for Ian, I think he spent most of his career in USL, and to be able to play in a US Open Cup final against a DC United team. For him, that's like, if you ask him his career highlight, like scoring a goal in a final is 100% it. So that's pretty cool. We have a very special place in our hearts for the US Open Cup in the Fuller household.
And it was one of only 2 lower division finalists.
Exactly.
Basically from when Major League Soccer started all the way through until a couple of years ago. So it was like one of those, I don't remember watching that game either, but it always was referenced of like, the Rochesters and the Charlestons of the world. Those were the 2 that were like capable of standing up.
Exactly, because Rochester won. Did they win it in 99?
99, yeah.
99, yes. And are they still the only lower division team to ever have won this
in the
competition?
MLS era? Correct.
In the MLS era, yeah. It's pretty cool. And again, like this is just driving home the point. This is why it's so much fun. This is why this competition is much watched. I think for me, like personally, witnessing a U.S. Open Cup match in the flesh, I was doing sidelines in 2023 for CBS. We were covering the final, and it was Inter Miami hosting the Houston Dynamo. Ooh. And we were all very excited because this was, shortly after Messi had entered MLS. They had won Leagues Cup. Messi did not play.
Welcome to the experience. This was the full Messi experience.
He did not play in this final. However, where I was stationed as I was doing the sidelines was literally about 5 feet away from the suite that he and Antonella and his little kiddos were hanging out in. So I was just fixed on that box. And it was just kind of cool to be like, oh my God, like Lionel Messi is within touching distance of me. That's rad. The other rad thing that happened was that pregame, I was doing a bunch of interviews and I'm walking along the sidelines. David Beckham is in his suite and we kind of like lock eyes and he gives me a wave and he goes, "Hello, Susannah." And I about perished.
Name dropped.
He said, "Hello, Susannah." And I died. I just died. Now, I have interviewed this man several times. And so it's but you never
no offense, think, you're not the only interview he's ever done.
Exactly. But I was like, there's like, how in the world has this happened? And the production assistant that I was with was like, "Did David Beckham just say your name?" And I was like, He did. That's a real thing that happened. That happened. You saw it. That happened, right? Yeah. So I almost died. Truly.
The other option to handle that is you know who, Bex? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see him later.
He won't leave me alone.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That is a very good one. Also,
Fake
it was
news.
an epic upset because Houston went to Miami and won that game.
They
People
did.
didn't really
They
have
did.
a
That
lot
was
of
a-
value in Houston at the time. And
I
now they
remember
do.
having a really good conversation with Ben Olsen
Nice.
before and after the match. And he, they were kind of this dark horse. They were a very hard team to beat at that point. And they had kind of caught fire. And Ben Olsen just was so, talk about a guy who kind of had a chip on his shoulder. He was so hungry to bring a trophy to Houston. It was a really, I remember just the interview was really, a lot of times these coaches kind of don't really say what they mean. And he was like, no, I want to beat this team. He was just on a mission. So it was cool. It was a very cool experience that I got to have.
I think at that point, Olsen had probably been either a player or a coach in about 20 U.S. Open Cups. So he knew what it was like. But yeah, there is nothing better than a final. That's the other part about it is you guarantee you're going to get this one game playoff where everything matters. And that is an experience that just can't be topped. I say that in telling everyone, if you're around where one's going to be, or you're thinking, and it's tougher now because it's not neutral site, but hey, maybe we should do a soccer trip one year. A U.S. Open Cup final is a really cool one to do because it's going to be a big moment for everyone that it's involved. I went to 6 of 7 straight. I was lucky enough that Philadelphia hosted 2 in a row. So I drove down to Philly for those and just being in the crowd, being in the parking lot before. Philly lost both of them. So, didn't get the home atmosphere experience, but that's what it's all about. That was the first final I had ever been to of any pro soccer event was the, I believe it was 2013. And Seattle ends up beating Philadelphia. Obafemi Martins and Clint Dempsey linked up in extra time. So it went all the way to extra time, and Seattle won 3-1. And you're this is so cool. Sold out stadium. There's green smoke from the Seattle fans. It was just a whole thing in a way that I didn't really know existed at the time. But I would say for me, when you think about moments in Open Cup, I think one that sparked the interest for me was Cal FC beating, as an amateur side, 2 pro teams in 2012. So for anyone who doesn't know this story or remember, it was a local men's league team in the LA area that once they got into Open Cup had Eric Winalda put together a roster for them. And this was when Eric was, I think, in between pro coaching jobs. I don't know if he had coached Atlanta yet in those teams or not, or maybe this was his debut as doing that. And they put together this what we talk about when we do our 50 states of lore players and urban legends. It was the lore players of the LA area. And Danny Barrera ends up being one of them, who goes on to currently playing still in USL Championship. So they beat the Wilmington Hammerheads, which the fact that we get to talk about the Wilmington Hammerheads
That's
alone,
amazing.
worth
I want
the
some
time.
Wilmington Hammerheads gear. I feel like that would
If
be
anyone
elite.
is out there, we need it. The Wilmington Hammerheads famously at one point had a player who won the AFCON Golden Boot and was playing with the Wilmington
No
Hammerheads
way.
at the same time.
What a
which
great
is,
nugget.
Yeah, that's always my favorite thing. And then they went on, Cal FC went on to beat the Portland Timbers, which was the first time a amateur team had beaten an MLS team not in penalty kicks. So it happened twice ever, but all in PKs, and they beat them in or in normal time. And at this point already, at the time, soccer's not really on TV that much. FSC existed, Fox Soccer Channel. They had gotten the rights to these games, so they're broadcasting them. So I had to go to a friend's house to watch it because I don't have that channel. And it was just this whole big story buzz. But we're all we know how this is gonna go. And then they beat them, and we're talking Darlington Nagby, right? And they didn't win MLS Cup yet, but the Portland Timbers, and then they played Seattle in the next round. And so you're oh, Portland, now Seattle, it's over, and Seattle won 5-0. But it was this is what's possible with this competition. As I said, it comes in and out. There are years where you don't get stories like that. The broadcast rights are insane. So it's some years it's not on. Some years it's totally on. You get to watch every game. Other years, things don't work. You need to pay for this service, whatever it is. But I think that one to me is that is U.S. Open Cup. And we've had some of them since then. We've had some amateur teams beat pro teams, right? As USL Championship grows, USL League One becomes a league. Like, there is more potential for these moments. Hence, again, as I said, like all of these, like qualifying growing and the amount of teams. But that to me was like the original moment and the big one that I always think back on and would probably like try and push people towards to be like, should I like this thing? Why should I care? And what's it made of? But back then there was epic stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So 2012, SKC beat Seattle, who were going to make it 4 straight. And Seattle had hosted it the 2 years in a row. They had, I think, sold out the link. Again, we're talking historic crowds at the time, unprecedented. And SKC moving into their new stadium the first year, which was Livestrong Park. Are we still allowed to say that?
I don't even know.
The yellow wristband.
Oh,
which
jeez.
Then got canceled, I think, because
Yikes.
of, can't even remember his name, but the bicycle
Lance
guy.
Armstrong.
That guy. But SKC had just rebranded, renamed themselves. They sold out the stadium. There was a weather delay. No one leaves. And they end up knocking off Seattle in PKs. And then Jimmy Nielsen takes spray paint and spray paints 2012 on the wall where they had put the trophy
Epic.
like years and whatever. And then that is now SKC's tradition, if they ever get back to this point, of how they celebrate trophies. And then I was there in 2017 when they beat the New York Red Bulls in the final.
Cool.
And it's like that stadium just when it's I mean, for any game, I think it's as good a crowd consistently as anyone in MLS because they've been bad and the fans still come and it still feels fun. But when it's a big game, it bounces and it's like next
Agreed.
level. And that was as big as it got at the time, like Clash of the Titans type stuff. And it was just this like epic game. And I remember watching it from afar being like, would love to see that one day. And then the next year I went down to Philadelphia and watched it as well.
Look at you. How do you choose, Goss? But
I couldn't. I have 100 on
I was
this
gonna
list.
say there's just a million. It's so fun. Do you
It's
have
like
another
NCAA
one?
tournament, right? Where there's quirky moments, there's high level moments, there's endearing moments. Like there's just so many different things that make this so special because it's just so varied and wide of like the characters that are part of it. I mean, there was a team, Christos FC, who still play.
Yeah,
who went on a run. They beat pro teams. They are sponsored by a liquor store in Maryland. So you're like, party post games are
Isn't
epic.
there a burrito place?
El Farolito
Yes.
is one of the big teams.
Yes.
I think they went the furthest for an amateur team this year. So one of the things I didn't throw in before is for each round, for each level, whoever gets the furthest gets a pot of money. So like the amateur team that gets the furthest, not specific to round, but whoever it is, they get extra money. Same with USL League One, Championship, MLS. Yes, I guess it would be the same MLS if no MLS team won it. I actually never thought about that before. So I don't know. Maybe someone out there knows and can teach us. So that's like a big deal as well when these teams make these runs. But El Farolito claims to have invented the California burrito where you put the French fry in the burrito. I got a lot going for them.
And now I'm hungry.
Yeah, they're good at soccer and they're good at everything. One more to mention is, so Douglas looked it up for us. They won $50,000 for being the furthest, at the amateur team to go the furthest, which goes pretty far for a team that doesn't pay their players, but has to pay for everything they do, like travel and jerseys and all that type of stuff. In 2015, Portland played Seattle, and Seattle normally will host their Open Cup games at Starfire, which is their training ground.
Yes.
It holds, I don't know what they legally say. My guess is they say it holds 7,000. I think these games are normally probably like 10 for people who are like crammed in and standing around. And what I love is Seattle could sell more tickets at the link, but like this is their culture. This is what they do is Open Cups at Starfire. And they played the Timbers. Again, could have opened up CenturyLink, made it big. No, this is what we do. They end up losing. They finish with 7 players on the field because of red cards and injuries and lack of subs. And the final red card is the ref giving a yellow to Clint Dempsey. Clint Dempsey's so mad that he takes the notebook or the red card, whatever it was, tears it in half, throws it at the referee, walks away. Clint Dempsey is suspended for so many games that when the notes come out each year saying, here are the things to know, here's the past winners, like you get a broadcast note for every game, he is still listed as players that are suspended because he's not been available enough for enough games to have worked the suspension out.
I will interject here. So Clint Dempsey was on the call with me at the U.S. Open Cup final in 2023.
Was he allowed in the building?
And he was truly like, I don't know if they're going to let me into the stadium. And he was legitimately like looking over his shoulder the whole time. He was like, I feel, and then it kind of like became a bit like we were like, well, we should absolutely have one of the staff members come and like escort him off the stage. It would be incredible. So but yeah, he was absolutely like, there's a chance that like they could kick me out. It was epic.
I would say normally for a player, like you're suspended, you're allowed in the building. I think like you're probably fine. But I think ripping up the notebook probably brought you into another line. I think Cuauhtemoc Blanco, me and Tom joke about this a lot. I think Cuauhtemoc Blanco's also still suspended he got like a 7-game suspension one year, and I don't 100% know why. So yeah, it's an insane competition. So we put it out there for our Kickback committee, our whole group chat of like best moments, Susan. And we got some random ones. Can I start with Douglas?
Yeah, start with
our own Douglas,
our producer extraordinaire.
Yeah, our fearless producer, but sadly fearless because he's a DC United fan and you have to be used to some pain. But one of the great moments in Open Cup history, maybe debatable, maybe not, is that in 2013, DC United had the worst season in Major League Soccer, and then they won the US Open Cup. Because it's a completely different thing. And not only did they win, they beat an RSL team in Salt Lake that had just gone to the CCL final as the first MLS team to ever make the CCL final. And so they were considered as good as it got in MLS history on the field. And Sandy, Utah, right? It's a soccer-specific stadium. Mm-hmm. It was packed for this game. Everyone's going, like no DC fans, I don't think, really flew out for the Open Cup final to watch a 12-point team take on the best team in the league. And Lewis Neal scored the winner. And it's just, I watched it in a bar because you had to find one because it was only on Gold TV and it was like impossible to watch. And it is the classic. We say it every year of like, well, this one means a lot to this team because they suck. And like, what else are they going to win? Could they win Open Cup? And DC is always the lesson for that. And it's great.
Who was the manager at that point for DC?
Probably Ben Olsen.
Was it Ben?
Probably.
I was going to say, so like, you have to think about it. Like, that might have even saved his job that season.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
I think it saved a lot of things, maybe in a bad way, for a couple of years of like this, because they stayed together as like a group for a while after that. And there was always like, is this tired? Is this, although I guess in retrospect, they haven't really changed a lot in the last 10 years. So maybe it was just better to have won a trophy than nothing at all. But yeah, it was really cool. We have some other ones, Suze, if you want to.
Yeah, Morgan, she's awesome. She is an incredibly talented photographer and also works on our social team for Kickback. But she gets to go to a bunch of these matches as a photographer, which is really cool. So she was actually at the final between Orlando City and Sac Republic, which was incredible. So the last time that a lower division team had played in a final was the 2008 final. Yeah. Charleston Battery, where Ian scored, which is pretty cool. So Sacramento was playing Orlando City, and it was, I mean, I remember covering this, and I think I did an interview on the call up with, and his name is escaping me, of course, the Sacramento head coach at the time, Mark Briggsy. But it was incredible, and we had seen the scenes of, you know, the matches in Sacramento and the amount of fans that were going to travel to Orlando. I mean, it was huge. Like, it was like such a big deal. But she was saying that the atmosphere there was just second to none. And she said it was the best shooting experience that she had in Orlando was that game. Also, fun fact, fun little nugget about this matchup that I absolutely love, which kind of speaks to like how important these competitions can be. So there was a Spygate situation ahead of this final. So Sacramento had traveled to Orlando, and apparently someone on Sacramento's staff caught an Orlando City staffer spying on their training session and then issued a complaint and was like, hey, this, and I think there was an investigation that happened. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea what came of it, but it was like the MLS team sending a spy to scope out the championship team was just an interesting little twist.
Again,
I love.
This is the best.
I know. It's so good.
Crazy.
It's so good. So that I just think I think that's a wild little story that, and if I recall correctly, Orlando, this was going to be their first trophy.
Yes.
So like this was something that they were absolutely prioritizing. Mm-hmm. Like they wanted this badly, and they ended up winning and getting their first trophy subsequently. But it just goes to show you, like this matters. It matters, man. Morgan also, she does a lot of work for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And so she said the game between the Rowdies and the Legion, Birmingham Legion, last season, Rowdies were up 4-0 in the 79th minute. And then Birmingham came back and scored 4 goals between the 82nd minute and the 97th in stoppage time. And then the Rowdies ended up winning the game in extra time, I think. And it was like a bicycle kick goal that ended up winning it. So it was just, I mean, complete chaos. But she said
no other competition. Because it's single game elimination, it's like you might as well go for it, right? And then this is the type of stuff that happens. I once called a game where a team called Florida Soccer Soldiers upset a professional soccer team, and then their star player got signed by the team after they were done playing an Open Cup. It's wild. I once called a game where a team called Orange County FC beat a team called Orange County SC. Like, you can't write that.
That's hard, though, for you
brutal.
As a broadcaster.
It was so hard.
I would be like, oh, I give up. Yeah. Wave my white flag. Like, It
was tough. And Paul Caligiuri was the coach of Orange County FC. And they won that game. So they upset a pro team. And then they went and played the Las Vegas Lights, who was coached by Eric Winalda.
Oh my God.
And we came full circle. Orange County beat them as well.
It's beautiful.
So it was like an epic run for them. I wanted to throw this one in as well from one of the members of our group chat who said, 2014 fourth round of the Open Cup, New York Red Bulls played the New York Cosmos at Hofstra Stadium. So this was the restart of the Cosmos. They ended up in NASL and bounced around, and now I believe are restarting again. The Cosmos had really good support. New York Red Bulls had a away section, was fantastic, even bringing in proper flares, not lame-ass smoke, is what it says.
Direct quotes.
Yeah, there was just such an edge to the atmosphere, authentic dislike between the supporters, really genuine cup experience. Cosmos smoked them 3-0, and it made you realize how much MLS had cocked up the New York City soccer scene, is what our friend said. And that was a huge driving force in the early 2000s, 2010s, was the Cosmos got to play NYCFC and Red Bulls consistently, and they beat them a ton of it. And that one was during the World Cup, I remember, during the 2014 World Cup. And then the next year they played NYCFC at Fordham on like basically a baseball field. And I think Cosmos beat them as well. And then the Cosmos went to Red Bull Arena, and I think Sasha and Brad like started that game because they were like, we're not losing to the Cosmos again. Like this isn't happening. And Sasha, of course, now very connected to the Des Moines Menace.
Oh yeah.
Has helped put together sort of these all-star teams for them. Because one thing to note is for USL2 and NPSL, most of the players are college soccer players. And so when Open Cup starts at the beginning of the tournament, college soccer players are not released from school yet. And so they kind of have to put together new rosters. And so Des Moines Menace, which are one of the giants of the USL2 scene and have been one of the best teams for 20, 30 years, have huge support. Sasha Kleshin's gotten connected with them. And he brought in Benny Feilhaber this year. Brad.
There was a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. And they played in 2-degree weather at Sporting KC2, who had just fired Benny Feilhaber. And they ended up knocking them off. It was a whole wild experience. It never ends. As you said, we could never choose and still talk about this all day. Truly.
Yeah. If after listening to all of these stories, if you're not intrigued at the very least, then I don't know what's wrong with you. It truly is the best. Do you know who else knows a thing or two about this competition, David Goss?
Maybe a former winner?
Oh, maybe a former winner. Maybe a current defender for Nashville SC, Walker Zimmerman. He won it back in 2016 when he was playing for FC Dallas. He's made it to some semifinals with LAFC. And this is a big deal for Nashville SC. They're going to face Philadelphia Union in the semifinals on Tuesday. This would be their first trophy. So again, pretty high stakes for them. But we had a chance to catch up with Walker ahead of that semifinal matchup. Here it is. Well, ahead of Nashville SC's big U.S. Open Cup semifinal matchup with the Philadelphia Union, we are absolutely delighted to welcome in our very good friend, defender Walker Zimmerman, making his Kickback committee debut. Walker, welcome.
Heyo, thanks for having me. Happy to be here, guys.
We're very excited. We're very excited to catch up with you, especially ahead of this big semifinal. So, U.S. Open Cup is a competition that you know very well. You're well versed in. You won it with FC Dallas back in 2016. You made it to a semifinal in 2018 with LAFC. For you, when you think about this competition, what's your favorite memories that come to mind?
I mean, it's got to be the time that we actually won the whole thing with FC Dallas 2016. Very special game there. It was our first trophy in 20 years at the time. So we defeated the New England Revolution at home. And then I've had a lot of painful Open Cup memories as well. I've done 2 hamstrings in Open Cup games. I've lost in the semifinals twice in PKs, both with a chance to have a winning PK. So, yeah, I've had my ups and downs with the Open Cup. A love-hate relationship. Hopefully this year it's a big love relationship as we see a home semifinal.
I don't specifically remember, but in 2018, it was a 7-6 shootout. So were you like the 8th shooter?
So oddly enough, I got subbed out maybe either 45 minutes or 60th minute. We had played a bunch of games at LAFC, and it was the heat of the summer, and I was gassed. Pardon the last name there. I just saw your name. I saw your name as I was saying that word. I was like, that's so weird. And so I ended up getting subbed out. I was rooting the team on, and we had a chance to win it, and we lost. So Joe Willis, I think, was actually in goal for that shootout.
Houston legend.
Yeah, he's won an Open Cup once or twice. I think maybe once with DC, once with Houston, or maybe just with DC. I'm not sure. But yeah,
Houston
He beat us.
Houston beat Philadelphia, so there's a little history.
So
for you
yeah, I think he's won 2 then.
We were curious, do you have any, as a fan, because obviously we watch from afar, and it's always one of these where it's like, maybe sometimes you forget it's on, maybe you don't know, and then on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, all of a sudden it's like insanity going on all across. Do you have a memory from a game you didn't play in an Open Cup?
I remember watching Cincinnati's run. Man, I don't know what year that was. I think they made it the semifinal or something like that.
Yeah,
and they had a lot of noise. And then Sacramento did a good run as well. So I kind of remember, like, once those teams get into like the quarters, the semis, the final, because I think Sacramento played in the final and lost. But you kind of hop on that train of like, oh, like I hope they do well. I hope they kind of make a run. And it's a little bit of a Cinderella story. So anytime a non-MLS team kind of gets towards that quarterfinal, semifinal, you kind of hear about it, pay a little bit more attention. So that's the special thing about this tournament.
I love this competition, Walker. Like, for me, I geek out over this for exactly the reasons that you just mentioned, you know, with the potential for these awesome underdog stories. And also, you know, it's like this storied competition in U.S. soccer. And, you know, it's unfortunate that there was almost a chance that you guys weren't going to play in this competition. And so for you, as somebody, you know, who has these incredible memories of it and watched it for so long, you know, how good is it to be able to play in another semifinal in the U.S. Open Cup?
Yeah, it's great. It's a chance for us to win our first trophy. Anytime there's a trophy on the line, you know, the teams are going to go after it. I think, too, another special thing about the Open Cup, and one thing that we haven't mentioned yet, is the chance for younger players in the earlier rounds. I mean, it's a chance for guys to really, you know, take the reins and get some good minutes against quality opposition. And, you know, this year's Open Cup run, we had a very fully rotated lineup away to Orlando. They're playing their first choice team that had been unbeaten in like 12, 13 games. And we watch our young guys from the stands go out there and put in a heck of a performance and win 3-2. And that's a career building moment for these guys. A lot of guys' first goals, first appearances, first 90 minutes. And so to see kind of how it really does feel like that full team competition, because you have guys who are playing so many roles, so many different lineups, so many different players who are stepping on the pitch throughout the competition. So that adds to, I think, the camaraderie of what it brings to especially MLS clubs who do typically rotate early on in the Open Cup. And it gets everyone kind of on board from the beginning.
You've been around this club for a little while, and obviously it's grown a lot. What does it feel like for you when you see now the depth, the way it's built? Nashville was a club that didn't really have young players for a long time, and now there are. I saw Matthew Corcoran getting recalled, like all these young players that are around it. How do you feel as you watch how this club has developed?
It's been great, seeing their careers take off, watching them. Like you mentioned, Matt is probably going to get called up here to the U20 World Cup, which would be awesome for him. We had Chris Applewhite, a homegrown, called into the U19s this past week. So to see guys starting to take that next step with youth national teams, not to mention the guys who are playing for full national teams of other countries, whether that's Xavier Valdez in goal for the Dominican. You got obviously Andy Nahar playing for Honduras. Schaffelberg's gone. But, a lot of guys playing for international teams, but seeing the young guys especially taking their first steps with the youth national team and hopefully working their way up to first team minutes is exciting.
Walker, how does it feel? And I don't want to – you're not old, okay? I just want to put this out there and say you ain't old.
I appreciate
okay?
that. I feel young. I'm a big kid. I mean, I think if you're doing who's most like a kid on the locker room, I'm in the top 5 on the team.
There we go. See?
Okay.
It is. Age ain't nothing but a number,
That's right.
It's just, it's all about attitude. But the truth is that you've been in and around Major League Soccer for a while now. And on this team, I would imagine, you are one of the veteran presences, if you will. Is that a role that you embrace, or do you kind of lean into, what? I'm still feeling young and I'm thriving. Where do you kind of fall on that scale?
I think it's just my personality. It's supernatural to try and be a leader, to try and use those experiences that I have had to talk to younger players, find the right moments, things to say or things not to say. Sometimes it's better to not say anything. So I think the maturity I've had in the last couple of years is actually trying to listen a lot more and not just make my voice, my opinion heard right away because I'm like, I think I'm right or I know I'm right, to where it's like, okay, let me just really let them process, let them present me with things or the team with things, and then really humble yourself to listen a little bit more to other opinions. And it's been super useful. I think it also adds a level of respect and connection within the team, because it's not just, you have one or two voices of guys who are older and been around. It's like other guys have amazing ideas too and ways that we can improve as a team, and it might not just be what I've experienced, and they're going to have different perspectives. So yeah, I think just trying to listen a lot more, but definitely when push comes to shove, if there needs to be a decision made on the field or in the locker room right away, I have no problem trying to assert and take that role as a leader and a captain. So I think it's a bit of a balancing act for sure.
You mentioned one of the 5 biggest kids on the team. Who's the other 4 on that list?
Then I just go to then I'm going for different reasons. But we got Max Eck. He's a young one. Corcoran's a young guy. Johnny Perez.
Oh, so the actual kids.
Yeah, the actual kids. I guess I'm going
kids.
to the youngest guys on the team. I mean, although Chris Applewhite, his voice is probably the deepest on the team at 19. So I don't think he's in the top 5 kids for sure.
Is Hani Mukhtar not playing pranks on people?
Hani's definitely not a kid. He might be one of the old mature heads. He's just kind of lay low, very chill, calm. The guys who are playing games all the time, that's more my speed.
Do they ever say things that you're like, wait, what is this? This vernacular? Because I feel like I have to keep up with the youth.
Yeah,
job,
honestly,
and I'm like, what does this mean?
Yeah, when they say something I don't know, I just kind of look at them and walk away because I don't want to have to change my vocabulary. I just want to. It's better off if I just don't know because I'm not going to use it. I can't hear it and then apply it into my vocab.
This is Reggie Cannon energy right here.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
You're
flow.
Smarter than I am.
It wouldn't.
Well,
flow.
he's also cooler than. So he can just be like, you know what? No, I'm just going to go score goals and do what I do. Give us an idea, obviously looking forward maybe one step, but what it would mean to Nashville or to the club to win something like this.
It'd be huge. It's the goal that we set out at the very beginning of the season across all of our meetings and preseason team building exercises. The end goal was we want to be the first professional sports team in Tennessee to win a trophy. That's the bottom line. We don't care what trophy it is. We have 3, thankfully, still on the table. All 3 that we could win this year are still on the table. Obviously, with Open Cup being the first one that we can attack and win. So we're excited. We're happy to be in that position. If you'd have told us that at the beginning of the year, we'd be excited about it. We thankfully have experiences now from Leagues Cup where we lost a final, but we got there, we hosted it, we know that pain, we know what it feels like, know what it takes to win a semifinal. So it's not like we haven't done it before. And so we're going into this game confident. We've beaten Philly twice. We know that they're a very good team, leading Supporters Shield, but there are ways that we can take advantage. So we're excited. It's going to be a tough game. Atmosphere, I know, will be great. Geodis Park will be rocking for that. And I know our fans are going to be excited to attend that game.
Yeah, Geodis Park is definitely a special place. It's one of those venues that I just absolutely love going to. And I've been really lucky over the course of my time at MLS and through now. Like, I got to be there at the beginning stages before Nashville was even announced as an MLS team. And I remember going down there, and this was I think it was in 2017. And the cover of a newspaper there was like, Music City is Soccer City. And I was so blown away with the way that Nashville had kind of embraced this sport, because it's obviously known as, the country music capital. And yet there's so much space for soccer in Nashville. And then that has since just grown. I mean, there were Club World Cup games in Nashville. The scale of it is so big. And so for somebody that's been with the club for a while, I'm curious to get your take on how you have seen the soccer scene essentially evolve over the course of your time there in Nashville.
I mean, there's been such a big commitment from the very beginning, starting with John Ingram, Ian Ayer, Mike Jacobs, the guys who kind of have built this thing up. And when you have committed ownership, committed front office, it's a lot harder for it not to succeed, and it's harder for fans not to get behind it because they make sure that there is momentum there. And so they put the commitment there from the beginning. Fans have grown with us. You see their understanding of the game, their ability to affect the game with their noise and their passion. And it's certainly still young, like in the scheme of things, 6th season, a new city, new club, but they're showing up. We have an amazing attendance every year. And I know that, it's talked about a lot more than even the first year. You see the decals on the cars, the license plates, the flags on front porches, the scarves. I mean, you start seeing it around the city just a lot more. It's very common. And so that's part of the growth and the evolution of what we're getting to watch. And then obviously with the youth and the growth of our academy, the growth of, other youth soccer clubs in Tennessee, I know that that's a byproduct of our success and the commitment to this club.
Walker, do you get recognized in Nashville? Because I know, you could be rubbing shoulders with some of the biggest country music stars, but then it's like, oh, hey, there's Walker Zimmerman. What is that like?
I would say I do. I would say, thankfully, post haircut, it's a little bit less.
I was going to say.
It's a little bit less. They're like,
you're incognito?
Yeah, you blend in a little bit more when you don't have a big man bun on top of your head. But it's really fun. Fans are really sweet and awesome about it, and it's always fun to interact with them kind of out and about in the natural habitat.
Natural habitat. I love it.
Did you go shaved head to get away from?
No. That had nothing to do with the decision to shave the head. It was more, I was planning on doing it at some point this year just because it had been 5 years of really long hair, and it was coming up on the summer. It was going to be really hot. I was coming back from a concussion. I was like, you know what? Like, it would feel really good to have short hair for the summer. And so, yeah, Tucker and I just, I needed the emotional support. So he got his head shaved right there alongside of me, and he went first. He wanted to be brave and be first. So, yeah, it was really fun, special memory for both of us.
Do you miss the flow at all?
Not really. I think the ease of taking care of yourself is it's very nice. Very nice. Can't
That's
go back.
Fair.
Yeah.
You've got 2 kids now too. Ain't no time for that.
No time for that. Gotta just towel dry that hair, and you're out the door.
On your way.
Yep.
That's a long time to step away from it, though, and feel pretty great about it. So,
yeah, I haven't looked back. I mean, I literally shaved it the first day. I was like, yeah, that's great. What was I doing for so long?
You mentioned the success of the team driving the growth of the sport. And I think for a lot of people this year, it comes down to BJ Callahan. And he is this fascinating name in U.S. soccer. He's sort of this unknown character, right? Stepped into the national team. No one knew who he was before, had success, and then, as expected, stepped away. So take us behind the scenes a little. What's he like? What has he brought to this club?
Yeah, BJ's been great. He's been a huge factor in our success, driving force behind the culture, the commitment, the identity, and the style that we not only play with, but train with, how we act. It's just a very composed and calculated way of approaching each day, making sure everything's super clear. Guys know what it means to be a Nashville SC player, how we're going to play in any given game, the adjustments we're going to make, whether it's against opposition or towards our own team. But I remember getting a call, early on as we were kind of in the hiring process, and it was from Mike Jacobs. He said, hey, I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure he's fine with me sharing this now because, at the time, don't tell anyone. But now that we're well established, BJ's our coach, I can say this kind of thing. But he was like, hey, I know you've worked with this coach in the past. I want to hear your thoughts on BJ Callahan as we're going across our interviewing process and interviewing candidates. And I was like, man, what an amazing person, first of all, that you're gonna talk to. I think he's extremely bright, smart. He's committed to his job and his craft. I mean, this is a guy who started out doing, youth soccer coaching, video at Philly, working his way up to being actually an assistant coach with the national team, doing scout. I mean, he's kind of done all the different things along the way. And so it's a unique way that he probably looks at approaching leading a club, because he's actually been in every single part of the club. And so he can have a pulse on how to treat people, how different jobs should be done. And so he has expectations that all the staff must uphold, all the players must uphold, but he does it in a personal way. It's not a dictatorship. It's just clear, all love. We're all on the same mission, trying to be the best that we can be. So I can't say enough great things about him. I think he's done a great job. It was a perfect hire for us at the time, and it's proven itself this season.
Yeah, it's hard not to respect the journey of BJ Callahan. We had him on Morning Footy when I was hosting, and it was while he was the interim head coach of the U.S. men's national team,
Mm-hmm.
and the positive results that he was able to get. I mean, he's just one of these guys that, it seems like everybody likes him. No one has a bad word to say about him. So it's been really cool to watch his journey. As you mentioned, he has a connection to Philadelphia. Used to work for the club, did video there. You guys have done well against this team. You beat them 1-0 back in July. I think it was a stoppage time PK from Hani. But maybe BJ has the intel and you guys have their number. What is the scouting report this time in this US Open Cup semifinal against Philadelphia?
Yeah, I think we have to be ready for anything. I mean, when it's the third time that you're meeting a team in a season, especially when you've gotten the better of them after the first two games, they're bound to change something. And so you got to think through what are the ways that they kind of hurt you in the previous games. They're probably going to try and do that a little bit more. What are the ways that you took it to them? They're probably going to try and stop that a little bit more. And so the chess match has already begun. We're already game planning and preparing for different things that we might have to do within the game. And that's where it's super helpful to have a staff that is knowledgeable about the opponent, knowledgeable about your own team and how you can adapt on the fly. So we'll be ready. We'll be well coached. We'll be motivated for sure. Just with the internal motivation that we all have to win a trophy for the city and the state. So it's going to be a good one. Like I said, tough team in Philly. They have a lot of really special players, a lot of friends that I have there from the national team who are kind of breaking their way into the full team now. So it's going to be a good one.
Does BJ's Philly accent come out when he talks about Philly?
Not too much, thankfully, not too much. But him and Dan they'll have little powwows just about Philly.
They're probably talking about Wawa sandwiches or the birds or something like that.
For sure. Philly sports.
I have a couple of Philly people in my building, and if you see them, if you just say "Go Birds," their head whips around. It's like their whole world changes, and I just keep walking because I don't actually care about it. But it's a thing I knew I could say. Let's close you out on some big questions. You are the biggest kid on the team, but you have your own, and now you have sort of the veteran group entering your fatherhood world. What is your advice? What has been your advice as a Hani Mukhtar comes to you and says, "Walker, you are our icon father in the locker room. What do I need to know?"
Man, I mean, I've gotten so lucky with having Sally as my wife, who was just always the ultimate babysitter, nanny, early childhood education, follows all these different accounts on Instagram, and she'll share different things with me. So our whole conversation, like on Instagram, it'll have like a lot of parenting clips that we'll like send each other. I'm like, oh, like that's actually a good tactic. Let's try that out. And so I think what I love most about it is the constant learning of what it looks like to be a parent now, because I think we're learning so many more things about what good parenting looks like in 2025. And so really being patient, trying to listen, understanding that they can have emotions, but they can't always have a response that is what they're responding like. So it's kind of fun. Like, I mean, it's kind of a sick and twisted way of like, you kind of enjoy the process of the discipline, because like you're confident that you're doing it right. And you know that they don't like it, but you're growing them as a person. Like they're gonna eventually get out of whatever it is that they're doing to get them in trouble. So it's tough. I mean, there are obviously so many highs. There are some lows, but all in all, I mean, you're doing it with, person you love and Sally, and we can go back at the end of the day and be like, we probably could have handled that a little bit better, or, oh, wasn't that so sweet when they responded like that? But they keep us on our toes. Thankfully they're great kids. They have a ton of joy, give us a lot of laughs. So they make it pretty easy for us.
I can concur. Sally rules.
Yeah,
she's awesome.
No, it's
amazing. Sally is the best.
For as good of a wife as she is, she's an even better mom. So it's been really fun to have that chapter of our lives together.
Yeah, she's special. Question, Walker, who on the team would you allow to babysit your children, and who is like hell no, absolutely not. No way.
Well, all those kids that I mentioned before, I don't know much about their
fellow kids.
Yeah, my fellow kids. I don't know much about their ability to babysit. Jack Mayer always talks about his babysitting license that he got as emergency baby class. I'm like, look, that's so outdated. That's
that
probably
kind
like
of
10
checks
years old
for him, though. I feel
I mean, who knows what kind of thing they were doing in St. Louis for who does that? Like, you get certified baby, whatever it is that he talks about, but he always says he can.
The milkman.
I'm definitely not having Sam Surridge babysit my kid alone. He needs Laura for taking care of a baby. I mean, the guys with kids, I'd let them. Teal will get them worn out. He plays so hard with his kids. I mean, they're up early, and he just seems like he runs just the constant daycare sports camp, like full on. Tucker would be exhausted being with Teal, but he'd do a good job of wearing him out. So, yeah, we got some good options around the locker room.
So let me ask you this. So normally we do every week, we do a 50 state of soccer, and in it we get some of the highlights of like best soccer bar and whatever in each state. And then we also do a 5-a-side of like 5 best players, 5 players you'd want to put together. We're going to do Tennessee's this week, and we will have our final, as we always do, on our happy hour coming up on Thursday. But for you, we had this question in here, which is, if you built a 5-a-side of Nashville SC children, sounds like Teal maybe will have some first place options. Do you have 5 kids that you'd put together and you'd say, this is my group?
I mean, it's got to start with Teal's kids for sure. I mean, his girls are amazing. So he's got 3 kids. I think they're all going to be.
You got half a roster.
Yeah, they're already on the team. I got to put Tucker in just because he loves it more than most kids. He had his first practice of the season yesterday, and he's literally running around the field with his mouth open and smiling the entire time. I'm like, you're going to bite your tongue off. Just the joy that he has when he's running around. So if I didn't put him on, his emotional state would be crushed. So he's got to be in there. And 5th, let's see. I mean, we got Holland, Joe Willis's oldest daughter. She'll be a bruiser in there, an enforcer. You got Gaston's kids, Brian Acosta's kids. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll go.
We're
with
ready
Holland.
to start some fights.
Yeah, we got plenty of options there. We'll fill out a bench real quick.
Man, it's solid depth. We're talking
Yeah, a
serious
lot of depth. A lot of depth. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Walker, it is always a pleasure catching up with you. We really appreciate the time. Best of luck on Tuesday
Thank
against
you very
Philadelphia.
much.
Fingers crossed, no PKs, right?
Well, I mean, it'd be fun to win the shootout. That'd be great. No problem.
I know. But
Are you
maybe just
shooting?
take care of business
Yeah.
early, you know?
It'd be exciting for the fans. Let's get
Okay.
going.
There you go.
We owe them a shootout. We lost to them in a shootout at their place, so we gotta beat them.
I love
ours.
a redemption storyline.
Yeah, be great.
Let's go for it. Walker, you're the best. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Big thanks to Walker Zimmerman for joining Kickback Committee. He clearly, Goss, also a big fan of this competition. He actually referenced the runs of Sacramento and Cincinnati before they were an MLS team. So he's all in, man.
He's got the bug. It's good to know that the players playing in MLS are also like pro upsets of MLS. Probably not on their own team, but for everyone else. That Cincinnati run I'd forgotten. It is like not disconnected from the fact that they got an MLS team.
No, and you know what? I remember watching the game against the Chicago Fire, and it was crazy, and it was a scoreless draw. Their goalkeeper, I remember Cincinnati's goalkeeper, and God help me, cannot remember who it was.
His face.
But they went to penalties, and they won in penalties, and he made some crazy, crazy saves. And then I think subsequently the next year, they did become an MLS team. I think it was sort of like, you know, that sort of progression. But I remember watching that match and being
Mitch
like,
Hildebrand.
wow, yes.
That was his name.
Yes.
Great head of hair.
That was it. Great head of hair. You know I love soccer hair. You know I'm passionate about soccer hair, and that is big facts.
Yeah,
Big
they
facts
beat,
right
I
there.
think they beat Columbus at home. It was at Nippert Stadium. They beat Columbus at home, and it was epic because Columbus had one yellow section, like pure yellow, and then it was just orange and blue. And you're like, oh, this is really like happening. And then that was Schweinsteiger's team.
Yeah.
So they beat Schweinsteiger, Dax, whatever. And then they ended up losing to Red Bulls in the semifinal with like Tyler Adams and BWP and all of that. And it was like proof that they were a big deal, that they, and what's funny is them and Sacramento, it wasn't their best years in the league. Like they both went to championships, have won championships, like have made these long seasons. And those were never the years that the Open Cup runs happened. And yet those are the years a lot of people from outside the clubs, I think, remember. I think the fan bases will remember the championship runs.
100%. Shouts too to Nippert Stadium. I remember going to
Legend.
some of those first matches in their first season, and it was awesome.
Listen,
It was
you were there before Taylor
just
Swift
awesome.
was, because I saw Taylor went to
you.
a game a few weeks ago. She's crowding your space.
I was there first.
Yeah,
Tay.
tell her to back up.
That's right. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Oh, God. Just a reminder that Nashville-Philly semifinal is on Tuesday at 8 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. And the following day, on Wednesday, Minnesota will host Austin at 8:30 p.m. also on CBS. And what's interesting, Goss, is that this would be the first U.S. Open Cup for all of these teams, and the first trophy for Nashville, Minnesota, and Austin.
Yeah.
Philadelphia obviously won the Supporters Shield, but this is big.
This is sort of what we talked about with DC of like, this is a huge opportunity. And these are these moments like we're reminiscing about of like, your fans will, your city will celebrate it. Your fans will celebrate. And then this will be a tentpole thing. Like it would be a successful season. I don't want to say Philly fully, right? Because they're in the Shield race. Like, I don't know what they would say. But for the other three, if they win this, it's 2025, job well done. Like, 100%. Whatever else happens, you've won the trophy. You've set a record for your team. You've done something you've never done. They will qualify for CONCACAF competition next year. Like, all of that is huge. I think Austin, the biggest one, because they are having the worst season of the four teams here, although they're in the playoff spot right now. But, like, winning this thing, and then Austin would host.
Yeah.
So Minnesota or Austin, the winner will host the final.
And that's
Minnesota,
a big deal.
And Minnesota's been in a final, but it was in Atlanta in 2019. It was like Darwin Quintero and that team that lost to like a juggernaut Atlanta team. But one of the things they said was like on the road, like it wasn't our crowd. I mean, imagine Wonderwall after a U.S. Open Cup final victory.
Oh my God.
I have chills. I have chills right now.
Insanity.
Maybe Oasis will go.
I mean, they're on tour right now.
They're in the area.
If they were smart, they would tap into this right now. I hope they listen to Kickback
I
Committee.
think they're pretty smart. I think they've done okay.
You think?
I don't know. Pochettino listens to the show, so maybe they do.
Maybe Pep Guardiola will come too.
He loves an Oasis
He does.
moment.
He sure
and he
does.
loves the beauty and essence of football when it's, owned by corporations and all that type of stuff.
That's right. I feel like US Open Cup would be right up Pep's alley. He'd be all over it. All over it. All right, guys, we are going to turn our attention to our 50 States of Soccer tour. And this week our focus is Tennessee, the volunteer state, Goss, my new home. Now, mind you, I am still new-ish to the Tennessee area. I live in Eastern Tennessee in Knoxville. But I will tell you that there is a decent little soccer vibe. And we've talked about it with Walker, just the soccer scene in Nashville. And every single time I went there for any event that the club was putting on, I was blown away by the amount of supporters, the enthusiasm. Obviously, Geodis Park is sensational. They did a tremendous job with that. And here in Knoxville, college football is king. It always will be. UT is the lifeblood here. That orange that is just you can't escape it really. But there is a niche sort of market for soccer here, and they built this new stadium in the old city, and it's a baseball stadium. The Smokies play there, the minor league baseball team, which is a Cubs affiliate. But that's where One Knox plays, and it's a beautiful new stadium.
Yeah.
And so people are, it's getting there. I mean, there's certainly room to grow, but it's pretty cool to kind of witness firsthand the growth of the sport in the state, because I feel like I saw it in Nashville in the early days, and now I'm here in Knoxville and getting to see it all come to fruition.
You
It's
see
pretty
gear
cool.
around, like people.
You do, you see a lot of like the stickers that I love their badge. They have a great badge. It's kind of this like silhouette of the Smoky Mountains. I think it's a really, really beautiful badge. And so you'll see that on cars. I see people wearing kits and gear all the time. I think it helps that they do have like good branding. That would be like the first thing I tell a club. Make sure you get your branding.
Which AKA means hire Matt Wolf. Shout out to
Hire
Matt Wolf,
Matt
one of
Wolf.
our favorites.
Exactly. But yeah, so we're gonna dive into some of the 50 States of Soccer topics that we've been hitting on. And mind you, this is early in the week, so we haven't had a chance yet really to source the masses, but we will get to that in our happy hour next week. But I have some shouts, Goss, for best soccer bar. I will say Boyd's Jig and Reel in Old City here in Knoxville is awesome. It's kind of where, so the Scruffs are the One Knox supporters group. That's where they meet.
There has not been a name that hasn't hit. First of all, calling the minor league baseball team the Smokies was elite.
It's amazing.
And everything since then has been great, and I love this.
It's so good. So the Scruffs meet at Boyd's Jig and Reel. Also, it's a Liverpool bar, which...
And the name of the bar is what?
Boyd's Jig and Reel. It's like an Irish pub.
It's great.
It's really cute. It's right on the corner. Old City's adorable. It's like these cobblestone streets, and it's very charming. So that's a great little bar. In Nashville, and this is a place that I think you have been to as well, Fleet Street Pub in Printer's Alley is awesome.
I went there. It's like slightly underground.
Yes.
So you have this like old school vibe. And I went there. So the only time I've ever been to Nashville was I went for the Nashville SC Orlando City playoff game at Nissan Stadium. So I've never been to Geodis Park. It's one of the few in MLS I've never been to. So would love to change that one day. I will meet you there.
Yes.
And
yes, ma'am.
Afterwards, we went to Fleet Street and we watched David Ochoa beat Seattle in a penalty kick shootout for RSL in the playoffs.
Wow.
Yeah, unreal.
Wow. Oh, I think I remember that. I remember that game. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we watched that at Fleet Street. It's a great pub. Great. It's very like kind of dingy and divey, and like I think you could still smoke in it. It's like that kind of establishment, but it's a great spot to watch soccer if you're in Nashville. So those are my shouts for best soccer bar. Hallowed ground. I'm gonna say, Geodis Park you have to mention because it's awesome and they did such a good job with it. Before Nashville became an MLS team, they played at a baseball field, First Horizon Park. I actually called one of their games like back in the day, which is hilarious. And it was
What are we
cool...
talking? Play-by-play, color?
I was color.
Sideline?
Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
There you go.
I was
As an
analyst, because that is definitely my lane.
Hell yeah.
Narrator, it is not. But it was really fun. It was really fun. But it's a cool park. It's in an area of Nashville called Germantown, and it's cool. Like there's some great little like bars and restaurants around there, and so that could be one. I'm very curious to hear what like actual like Nashvillians would have to say.
Yeah, I'm also curious what people from Tennessee would say, because we've gotten a lot of like, places where state championships are played, pickup fields, like that's kind of where we've gotten most
Exactly.
of. And we don't know that from the outside as well. I do know that they host the MLS Next Championships where Middle Tennessee is, which is in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I say that so I can say that my wife is a Blue Raider, so go Blue Raiders.
There we go.
Yeah, got that little shout out in. But I did want to mention here, and I forgot about this when we were talking about it before, one of the big movements in U.S. soccer was Chattanooga FC becoming one of the first like lower division semi-pro teams that had a huge crowd, and Finley Stadium was where they started, and I think they still play. It holds like up to 30,000 people. And we've seen
went there. I went there.
go.
They played them in preseason. One Knox played them in preseason, and
Boom.
and it's a very cool stadium. That's a great shout, guys.
Yes. Look
Great
at
shout.
us.
Look at us. We're
Tennessee.
figuring it out. We're
Yeah.
figuring it out.
We are volunteers.
Thank you. Volunteer state. Okay, so this one is a little tougher. The five-a-side situation. In my research, I didn't find a ton of sort of like even like well-known players that are from, but Matt Lampson, who is a former MLS goalkeeper, is from Cleveland, Tennessee, which is in between Knoxville, or it's in between Atlanta and Chattanooga, I believe. Somewhere in that little corridor. Aaron Schoenfeld, who is also the husband of Abby Dahl-Kemper, who is expecting a baby. Congratulations to the very happy couple. He's from Knoxville, actually. Ian coached him in Minnesota. Fun fact.
And he doesn't want to come back and
he
ride
does.
back?
He does. So actually, when he found out that we were moving here, he reached out to Ian and was like, hey, if you need any like advice or questions, like let me know. And he said that he and Abby whenever like she retires, like their plan is to
but he didn't say if you need a big center forward to play off of.
He did
would
not.
Be helpful in the USL League One setup.
It really would. In fact, maybe I need to speak to Ian about that, because I feel like he could maybe do some convincing. He's got to do some recruiting anyway. So we're already thinking about next season. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. So Aaron Schoenfeld, and then this is interesting. Cindy Parlow-Cone is from Memphis.
Ooh, El Presidente.
El Presidente. Did not know she was from Memphis, but she's from Memphis. So there you go. I did find a very cool connect, though.
Okay.
A very cool connect that is worth mentioning. So Tim Howard's daughter, Allie, plays for University of Tennessee. And she was born in Tennessee. She was born in Colliersville, Tennessee, which is just outside of Memphis. And fun fact, too, did not know this, and I should, because it's literally in my backyard. University of Tennessee's women's team is ranked number 1 in the nation right now. And they beat UNC 2-0. They beat UCLA, who were both 1 and 2 to start the season. They beat UCLA 1-0, and they have not conceded a goal in 7 matches.
They beat UNC, the reigning champions, on the opening day of the season. I think it was the opening game, like the big national broadcast. And it has sent UNC alum into a tailspin since then. And there are many of them, and they are all melting down. But Bunny Shaw, a alumni of the University of Tennessee women's soccer program.
There you go. I know we kind of made this concession that like we're not going to, if you can't have
she's not from Tennessee.
Not
she's
from
Jamaica.
Tennessee, but like spent time there. But maybe we make an exception for
Bunny.
Or
it's worth mentioning on its own and in its own right of like how cool soccer is. I don't know Tennessee very well, obviously, from saying I've only been to Nashville once. I've been to Memphis once, which I love. I'm obsessed with Memphis. We've talked about this before.
Yes.
But I do notice when you're talking about it how varied the state is of like Cindy Parlow-Cone, Memphis, Tim Howard's family. Like that feels like one culture. Nashville's one. Chattanooga's one. Knoxville's in its own place. Like it is.
Gosh, we're in the Eastern time zone in East Tennessee.
Yeah.
So for reference, like Nashville, which is 2.5 hours away, is in Central Time Zone. Like it's
like
a
a
long
different country.
state. It's a long state.
Yeah.
very long, lots of time zones. It would drive. I think it's a 6.5-hour drive if I were to go from Knoxville to Memphis.
That's like New York past DC.
I know. It's crazy. It is.
I
It's a
could have
very
said New
long
York
state.
to Richmond, but I didn't.
But
do
again,
that.
we are not experts on soccer in Tennessee.
We need people to send us.
So we need people to just inform us. So please hit us up on our socials when we put out those posts and respond, and let us know what we're missing. And then we'll talk about it on our happy hour on Thursday, which will be super fun. But that's it for today's committee session. Gosh, this was fun.
Great.
Anytime I get to like bang the drum of US Open Cup, like it's a good day. I feel very accomplished today, and that's.
I agree. The only thing I'm sad about is that we were not on air early enough to have been like covering 2025 from the start.
I know.
But guess what? We do it all again. 146 teams have entered for 2026.
Yep, get ready for that. So guys, make sure you download the latest episode of Soccer Wise. Make sure you join us for a happy hour on Thursday, 5:30 p.m. live on our YouTube channel. You can follow us and like us on our socials, subscribe to our newsletters, both Kickback Minutes, and we now have a World Cup specific edition that comes out every week on kickbacksoccer.com. And with that, that's all we got. Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy all the soccers. We'll see you next time.